What most people don't realize is that you have confidence within you. You have that good social energy. Like that's in your fitra, that's baked in, right? All we're doing is we're just removing the blockages. One of the most crucial pieces of advice when socializing is to be at the cause, not at the effect. Now, this is important for your relationships, for your business, for your dawah, because in all these aspects, you want for you to be proactive versus being reactive, things happening to you, chaos happening, right? Being in a victim state, getting negative, getting drawn down, getting beat down by life. Okay? How many of us feel like that sometimes? Yeah, right? Versus you're proactive, right? You're thinking a couple steps ahead. You have covered your bases, so now you have the mental bandwidth to actually worry about what the actual problems are. Not just your problems, but what are the problems in the world? What are other people's problems? Right? And through that, you're able to relate, you're better to actually give, and your influence starts to increase. Okay, so I'm gonna explain how that works to you a little bit. Okay, so we're gonna have you. Okay, there's you, and then there's the outside world. Okay, we're gonna call it the outside world. Okay, and you in this world are kind of small, and you're concerned. Your concern is going to be, probably you have some concerns about yourself and you have some concerns about the world. Okay? And the thing is, you only have a certain amount of control. This is kind of what you're in control of. Now, this can grow outward. This can grow outward in the form of healthy stress. So let's say you are out socializing, you feel in a really good mood, you feel really good, you're sharing that with other people, it's raising the vibe of the room, you're going to start to that's called that's the proactive one, because you're expanding, right? You're expanding. It's pretty cool, right? People getting drawn to you. Versus, let's look at a different scenario. So it's the same thing. You have you. You're probably not going to be able to see that. Let's do it on the same one. Let's give a different example. Let's say the reactive example, right? You're in a social environment and you feel like, people are intimidating, right? You're worried about, you're in your head a little bit. You're thinking you're going to start to contract, right? Your circle of influence, your influence is going to decrease. It's going to get smaller. This is the reactive way of doing things. Okay, so do you understand? So this could work for you or against you in many different situations, right? So if you are in a business situation, right? Let's say like it's you're trying to get a deal, right? You're trying to get a deal done. Or, you're out at work and you're trying to get a negotiation done. Well, you might feel like the outside world is kind of caving in on you. Oh, it's getting all dense, it's getting all hard, right? Maybe, you feel like, your boss is at you, you don't have control over the situation, it's not in your hands, there's not that much you can do, maybe a little bit of complaining in there. Yeah, a little bit complaining, right? Versus when you start to take ownership of what you have control of, then you'll actually be able to, again, go and expand. Okay, that's it, baby. So now you're seeing how you can better do something, right? You're thinking of creative solutions to solve the specific problem, right? There's not arguing, right? Another characteristic of this is it's a collaborative instead of a competitive frame, right? Because you're open to expanding. Even if there are threats, even if bad things happen, you're still going to expand, right? Versus when you're just in that contracted mode, you're moving down, you're not really going to reach that influence that you want to do. Okay, let's talk about in a dawah context. Okay, if you're going out there, you're spreading Islam. If you're no, let's give the masjid example. So let's say you're on the masjid board, or you're in the masjid youth committee, and they're saying, hey, you know what, the youth are not coming to the masjid. Oh man, this sucks. Well, what are you gonna do? You're gonna say, okay, we're gonna shame the we're gonna try and shame the youth, right? We're gonna tell them off. We're gonna teach them a lesson, right? That's coming more from a reactive place, right? Because it's like you're trying to do something after the fact, right? And they're like, okay, let's be strict on the youth, right? Like, what retention rate? Like, how much are you gonna retain those youth? Versus someone from a more proactive approach, they look at it and say, hey, you know what? We have a problem. Maybe the youth are not coming because we're not making it a space that they like. Maybe they don't find it. Maybe let's put a gym in the masjid. And that's going to attract them there. And then we can kind of get them in the masjid that way. Or let's befriend them, right? So that's a much better approach. You see what I'm saying here? So this is really an important concept to understand, the proactive versus reactive approach. Because in these different situations, it's going to affect your ability to influence the world and when you're walking through it. Okay, so if you come from a proactive approach as opposed to a reactive approach, if you're at the cause and not at the effect, you see how this is going to directly correlate to you improving your social skills. Directly correlate to you improving your social skills. Okay, so what are some ways that we can do this? Well, first, it's a mindset thing too. So practice thinking in a way that's proactive and really take ownership, take full responsibility for what you have control over. See, I'm going to be a little personal now. I used to get very overwhelmed, and I'll tell you why. As a young lad, is because we're gonna redraw this a little bit. Okay, we're gonna redraw this. But my concern for the world, this is me. Okay, this is maybe what I can influence. Okay, but my concern for the world was like this, and I really I felt the weight of like the world on my shoulders. Like I had to save the world, and it's very overwhelming. And it's really biting off more than you can chew. You try to take ownership over control over everything, right? It's really a huge burden. So what you kind of want to do instead is you want to work from where you're at. And we call this like knowing your edge and kind of pushing your edge, right? So you know exactly where kind of the limits of where you are, and then you're pushing forward from here, okay? If you're able to constantly push your limits, right? You're going to expand once again, right? You're gonna start to expand the circle of influence that you have, and that's going to be in a very healthy way, because this is like optimal, healthy challenge. This is where you want to be. This is the sweet spot, because you want to take ownership for everything in there. And then you want to start to branch out and reach out. And for anybody that's trying to make a difference, make more money, right? Influence people, really, right? Whether you're trying to make a sale, whether you're trying to give dawah, whether you're trying to get better relationships, you're going to want to constantly push on that edge, right? And as you start to push on that edge, you're going to get greater and greater realizations about life. Your selective focus is going to start picking up on, it's going to become a habit. You're going to continually start to expand, right? Which is just amazing for you. Okay, so that's what you want to do to avoid that. Because when I was younger, I'll tell you something. I used to put the whole weight of the world on my shoulders, and it was very unhealthy. You know how I call this the optimal healthy challenge? Well, I had the unhealthy version of that, right? I had like overwhelming amount of stress, right? And that's just not healthy for you. It could cause some growth, but all in all, there are smarter ways to work, right? So there's smart work and there's hard work, right? So this is working smart. Like I do believe in stretching yourself and pushing your limits and going like further, like beyond your limits, just to like test and know what they are. And that's a process that you'll have to do, right? You're not always gonna lie exactly here. You're gonna have to test. You're gonna have to go here, here, here. But the idea is that, you know, if you can hit this sweet spot of just consistently improving right beyond your edge, and that could fluctuate, right? Maybe one day your edge is a little bit smaller, you're having a little rougher of a day, but you still go for it, right? You're gonna start moving forward, okay? And that's what really matters at the end of the day. It's continual progress. Socially, what does this really mean for you? It means you're constantly putting yourself under sources of social pressure. So you're constantly putting yourself in situations where, let's say, you know, maybe you're saying hi to people when you're in the masjid, you're saying salam. Or a fun one is when after the salah, especially on Jummah day, I know everybody's trying to rush out, but at least say salam and maybe even learn the names of the two brothers beside you, the two sisters beside you, right? What does social pressure also look like? Like maybe talking to like a client that you're intimidated of. Maybe giving dawah to somebody that you're a little bit intimidated of. Maybe talking to someone that you're a little bit intimidated of, right? It's having that conversation that you've been avoiding, right? It's keeping, maybe it's even like keeping your word, right, on something that you were saying. That's even further in like building relationships, right? But you just want to constantly put yourself under social pressure. And as you start to get that experience and as you start to evolve, you're going to basically, your selective focus is going to hone in on the details. So we could spend all day talking about theory and all this stuff, but the fact of the matter is you won't improve until, you know, you get the references, right? And as you get the references, you're going to build that social awareness, you're going to build that emotional intelligence, you're going to build that charisma. What most people don't realize is that you have confidence within you. You have that good social energy. Like that's in your fitra, that's baked in, right? All we're doing is we're just removing the blockages. We're just removing the blockages and just making you, just letting your true personality out there, right? People always talk about personal brands. Well, personal brands are based off of a personality. If you don't have a personality, there's no personal brand, right? So really what we're doing is you're like, as a child, right? As a child, you're brought into the world, right? For the first 7 years, you're kind of just learning, you're getting taken care of, right? You're under the protection of your parents, right? The next 7 years, right, 7 to 14, that's kind of your growing, your learning phase. So you're now exposed more to and I don't want you to think of this as just your growing up, but I also want you to think in like in general as well, like just for humans as well, but also related to yourself because that'll help you understand it. Um, and the ideal is for 7 to 14, and the reason I'm making that note is because, you know, sometimes we don't go follow these steps exactly, but this is the sort of the way things most of the time should go, right? So, you know, there's anomalies and all that stuff. 7 to 14, what you want to do is focus on growth, right? So it's like working towards independence, right? You're not quite there. You're still relying on your parents. You're still learning stuff, but you're building those skills. You're learning. You're teaching. There's all that, and then like the last 7 years, right, from 14 to 21, is really like you're building that independence, right? And you're just getting like a little bit of guidance from your parents. And it should be most of the time like pretty much hands off. And I think, a lot of communities that we're in, we're not seeing this. I think, especially Asian communities, there's a lot of codependent tendencies, a lot of coddling of our children. And I think we need to fix that. I don't think the answer is the opposite the Western example, right, and the Western idea, but there is that balance between like full communal and super individualistic. So Islam is somewhere in the middle, right? The optimal idea is that you want to have people to have their own autonomy and their individual freedoms, right? As we find there's pretty cool ones in the West here, but then also you want that community aspect, which we don't really find here, right? Anyways, going back to it, so as you grow as a child, those are kind of the different phases. And similarly, what you're doing is you're exposing yourself, just like in that second stage, to sometimes we kind of have to relearn that as adults, unfortunately, if we didn't get socialized properly, which unfortunately is the case, right? We don't get socialized properly a lot of the time. And yeah, it's a pretty common problem, especially here in the West. We come out a little funky, a little weird. That's okay. Still love each other, and we got to move on, right? Because having those skills are so important, and the skills to lead. Because if you really want to make a difference, as you can see here, you have to be a leader, because if you're expanding, right, you're naturally going to influence more people, and you're going to get followers. Right? So leading is first about leading yourself, and then about leading others, all right? So that's really how you do it. You got to put yourself out there, go get some references experience, go meet people, right? And with that, you're going to create an effect. You're going to build your confidence, right? And you're going to be able to you got to be proactive about your social skills, because what does society do? It's like it's like reactive. You don't have control. Oh, it's just about the looks and the money. Like, trust me, like social skills is a very it's a much more independent variable from that stuff, guys. Let's be clear with that. So what really matters at the end of the day is the social skills, not the looks, not the money. It's really status, and human beings are so attuned to status. Watch documentaries on like chimps, my goodness, or apes. You'll understand it. All right. That is it for today. Be proactive, not reactive. Expand your circle of influence so you can better serve the ummah and inspire the world. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.